For those who asked for longer episodes, here's Season 2, Part 1, No Stops, All Story. Follow me for the year of 2011, along with mine, Missing Murdered, Unidentified in New England. January 3rd, 2011. A partial skull fragment of a white male was found on January 3rd, 2011, in Burlington, Vermont's Oakledge Park. The male is estimated to be between ages 18 to 99 years and about 5 feet tall. The head, torso, one or more limbs, and one or more hands were not recovered. Time of death is estimated to be between 1975 and 2011. Police have ruled out both Wilford King, missing October 24, 1980, and Craig Alexander, missing January 28, 1985. Authorities have not ruled out our web sleuth top pick of Jefferson Arms, a 22-year-old white male who went missing from Lake Champlain. Jefferson was seen at approximately 8 p.m. on September 18, 1992, on a sailboat with two friends approximately 1 mile east of Schuyler Island when they went to an open area of Lake Champlain. The boat hit very rough water and flipped over twice. Jeff and his friends were all wearing life jackets, so they decided to abandon the boat and swim to the nearest island. The two friends Jefferson was with swam ahead of him, leaving Jeff behind most of the way. Both friends made it to Schuyler Island, but Jefferson never did. Jeff's life jacket was later found by the Coast Guard. Please call Burlington PD at 1-802-658-2704 with any information. January 4th, 2011. Nicholas Buford, a 21, possibly 31-year-old Dorchester, Massachusetts resident, clad in a t-shirt, jeans, and no coat, was shot 3 to 5 times at 1:20 p.m. on January 4th, 2011. Nicholas was struck in the back and shoulder. This shooting occurred between 612 and 614 Blue Hill Avenue near Columbia Avenue, where Nicholas stumbled across the street. This location was close to several retail stores, including a high-end clothing boutique, Threads, with a Z, where an argument took place inside. This argument may explain why Nicholas had no jacket on in January in Boston. An unnamed heroic jogger tried to help and had people call 911. Nicholas was taken to Boston Medical Center, where he was pronounced deceased. Please call 1-800-494-TIPS, 1-617-343-4470, or text TIPS to crime. January 27th, 2011. Hey, baby. The day has come where I see you for the last day. I'm so scared and nervous, angry and frustrated, sad and hurt that you had to leave me and your family. I'm not ready to see you, but I know I have to. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I miss you so much. There are no words to explain how I feel. I love you so much. All I ask is for you to look after myself, Jeremiah, and your family. You are my world. Never forget it. Lord, please look after him and allow his soul to rest at peace. I love you always. Your girl, Shalonda. And as you called me, my love. R.I.P. Darren. Darren Negron Jr. was born August 28, 1987, and lived at 21 Glenwood Street, Springfield, Massachusetts, at the time of his death. Just 23, when he was found shot at 1:31 a.m. on January 28, 2011. Darren had been shot several times, including in the back of the head near the back porch at 96 Melrose Street, Springfield, Mass., part of the Old Hill neighborhood. Darren was not cooperative and tried to push himself off the stretcher. "He was my baby," said Mom Jessica Negron. "He was a good kid. He was a good friend." She described him as someone handsome yet humble, very funny with a sometimes sarcastic sense of humor. Darren had a history with police, including gang violence, and struggled with alcohol, and went to AA. If you or someone you know is dealing with alcohol addiction, visit aa.org or al-anon.org. And if you know someone struggling with substance abuse, Darren was a high school graduate of the High School of Science and Tech. Darren was unemployed at the time of his death, had recently broken up with his pregnant girlfriend, and his mom said the inactivity and uncertainty of unemployment had been hard on him, leaving him depressed and causing him to seek comfort in alcohol. Darren is now buried at Oak Grove Cemetery. There have been no arrests, and there are no known motives. Please call 1-413-787-6355 with any information. January 28th, 2011. Trigger warning: sexual assault. Not every person I cover will be someone who was a good person or an upstanding citizen. And this next case, for example, has a trigger warning for sexual abuse of a minor by a disgusting human being turned murder victim. Timothy Cowart was shot in the face at 42 Thompson Street, near South End Street, New Bedford, Massachusetts, at 12:05 p.m., January 28, 2011. Timothy was discovered on the sidewalk. Cowart lived at 40 Roosevelt Street prior to being stricken down and was taken to St. Luke's Hospital and was dead before 1 p.m. A witness said that the shooter was walking with Timothy when they drew their gun and shot 4 times. The shooter ran toward County Street before turning north on Warwick Street. Not much is known, nor do I care to get into this creep's life prior to his murder. What is known is that Timothy was a registered sex offender for a 2000 conviction for indecent assault on a minor, 14 plus, and was 19 at the time. This isn't the only incident that Timothy was implicated in. In 2010, he was arrested for threatening a woman with a gun. The unidentified woman was at her friend's apartment with Timothy and another male. She left the apartment as they were making her incredibly uncomfortable and called police. Timothy followed this woman outside and, according to the victim, lifted up his shirt to reveal a small silver handgun in his waistband. And according to court records, Timothy then allegedly said, "I know you ain't calling the cops." Please call 1-855-627-6583 with any information on the murder of Timothy Cowart. February 12, 2011. Pedro Cali Ozario was 24, had no known history of drugs, gangs, law breaking, and never got into a fight, never got into trouble. Pedro was the father of 2 children, ages 5 and 2, now 17 and 14. His daughter had leukemia, and Pedro was there for her. Pedro spent well over a year working out, exercising, and dieting after a weight-related health scare at 500 pounds, and worked himself down to mid-200s. Like, that is a huge and amazing feat. Pedro was shot one time in the chest and dumped from an older minivan at 40 James Street in Springfield, Massachusetts, a part of the Six Corners neighborhood, just 100 yards from his dad's home, just before 9:30 p.m., February 12, 2011. Pedro was rushed to Bay State Medical Center and was pronounced dead at about 10 p.m. Witnesses say there were two men with Pedro in the van, and an argument may have happened. Police didn't say if the men knew each other, but Pedro's dad says that Pedro would not have gotten into a car with someone he didn't know, so he must have known the killer. Pedro's sister went outside after all was over to have to wash the blood from the street so her father could grieve without the excess reminders or additional torment the blood would have provided. This same older sister was the one who cared for the young Pedro after their mom left them. There were balloons, candles, and flowers left at the memorial dedicated to Pedro, located just feet away from where his body was discovered. Police say that the shooting is not gang-related. However, they have not released any other motives. Please call 1-413-787-6355 or text SOLVE to CRIMES. February 17th, 2011. Vincent Wadlington was 25, funny, kind-hearted, and always there for his family, protective of his 5 younger sisters, including the one who suffered with depression and panic attacks after his murder, but was able to heal with counseling. Vincent was working at Burger King, was an artist who excelled at portraits, was living with friends, and getting his life back on track after grappling with rehab and substance abuse. If you or someone you know is dealing with substance abuse, visit na.org or virtual-na.org. Vincent had a history with law enforcement for unknown reasons, and was last seen alive at about 10 p.m. on February 16, 2011, at President Ave and North Main in Fall River, Massachusetts. On February 17, 2011, Vincent was found murdered by unnamed means at about 5:45 on the train tracks near Danforth Street near the intersection of Durfee and Old Street in Fall River. Police say that the crime was one of passion due to how close the killer and Vincent were when he was killed. There was a homeless community there around the time of this crime and potential witnesses. There was even one potential person of interest, but they have since been dismissed. According to Vincent's sister, "I don't wish any ill will on the person. I just want justice for my brother. I don't want to take someone else's family member away from them because I know how that feels." If you can assist, please call 1-508-991-0711, 1-508-324-2796, or visit bristolda.com. March 2nd, 2012. Jamie Lee, aka Rock Ducati, was a popular up-and-coming hip-hop artist. He performed with his brother Alan Keon Lee, aka Smoke Bulja, and other artists. Alan inspired Jamie to rap at the age of 11. And Jamie had recently completed a video with Grammy Award winner Cam'ron called How You Livin'. It aired on MTV Jams. And for you youngins out there, MTV used to be music television. Jamie's first album, Endangered Species, was set to debut on record label Life for Life. Jamie had a 7, now 19-year-old son. He was proud of his child and said, "Ma, that kid is gonna be something one day." Shortly after leaving Underbar, after a pre-release party for Millie's, a fight broke out in front of Caprice Restaurant and Lounge outside of 28 Tremont Street, part of the Theater District. Jamie and another unidentified man were shot. Shots occurred in front of the club and in the Tufts Hospital parking garage. Jamie and the other man checked themselves into the hospital. Jamie died before his family could say goodbye, succumbing to his wounds at 2 a.m. on March 2nd, 2011, while the other man survived. According to a 2017 interview with Jamie's son, surveillance cameras showed dozens to hundreds of people at the after party on Tremont Street. There was yelling, there was screaming, shots were fired, and nobody will talk and say what they saw. Jamie had no history of violence and no ties to local gangs. Despite his onstage persona, he was focused on the music. Jamie was a family man and a dedicated dad. His music persona was just that, a persona. Jamie's death occurred at the same time as another local rapper, roughly 30 minutes apart. Law enforcement say, however, the deaths were unrelated to one another or to the music scene. Law enforcement came up with a wall of silence when speaking to witnesses. Hundreds saw what happened. Nearly zero talked. If I was the one that did this to someone or someone else's family, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, especially if they had a son, said Jamie's son. Call 1-800-494-8477 to provide tips for Jamie's murder. March 14th, 2011. Luis Jorge Tavares was an 18-year-old homebody originally from Cape Verde, living with his mom and 4 sisters on Groom Street in Dorchester, Mass., while his dad remained in Cape Verde. Luis was assigned to the Jeremiah Burke High School, and though he had friends there, he rarely attended class there. He mainly left school to help his family make ends meet by holding a part-time job at McDonald's, and spoke little English. Luis was shot several times from behind as he entered the porch of his home at 10:45 p.m. on March 14th, 2011. Witnesses said a van sped away. 1 week prior to Luis's murder, his older brother, Paulo Jorge Tavares, was killed in a car accident. Songs of mourning were heard coming from the Groom Street home, being sung in Cape Verdean. There is no known motive for Luis's slaying. Please call 1-617-343-4470, 1-800-494-8477, or text TIP to 27463. March 24th, 2011. Born May 29th, 1993, 17-year-old Chris McKinney was murdered at 3 p.m. on March 24th, 2011, in a shooting at the corners of Whitman and Norfolk Ave in Boston, Massachusetts, while standing in a group of youths, including his older brother, who survived to call their mom Taisha to tell her, "Ma, they shot Chris." The shooting originated from a dispute that broke out. Chris defended his brother, and the coward of an assailant hid in the bushes and shot him in the back. There were witnesses and people who saw Chris murdered in cold blood. Yet the street code of silence, that is an old way of thinking and an old way of keeping yourself safe, kept them from telling police who killed Chris. Chris was a shirt off his back for you kind of guy and was loyal to his loved ones. Chris's mom Taisha first gave birth at 14 and attended charter school to gain her education, and is now an anti-violence advocate. Taisha went through the stages of grief as she identified Chris's body and felt anger, guilt. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm ready to be a better person. Anything she could to have this nightmare of losing her son stop. Chris was described as a mama's boy, as outgoing and bubbly, and not a quitter. Chris helped his younger sister with her homework and shovel driveways for people. Chris was helpful, and he lived with ADHD and struggled with behavioral issues. Chris lived with the Department of Youth Services for a little bit at one point in life, and police called Tyesha a bad mother for the death of her son. For the record, those police suck, and their opinion of Tyesha isn't an accurate depiction of the then 31-year-old mother. According to sources, Tyesha supported Chris in his good and bad decisions, and saw him only 20 minutes before he went to school that day. Chris was always smiling and changing his young life around by listening to music, no longer sporting the baggy look in his wardrobe. Chris was an entrepreneur who bought snacks for bulk at a low price and sold them for a higher price at school. Chris is now buried in Mount Hope Cemetery, and nobody wrote on Chris's online memorial page. If you or someone you know has any information, please call 1-617-343-4470. March 4th, 2011. Trigger warning, suicide. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a United States-based suicide prevention network of over 160 crisis centers that provides 24/7 service via a toll-free hotline with the number 988. It is available to anyone in suicidal crisis or emotional distress. I miss my brother every single day. I reread these comments and remember how special he was to so many people. I loved that most about my big brother. I wish everyone love and peace. Please don't ever forget my Charlie. He loves you all. This I know. Margaret Alper, sister to Charlie Alper. Born December 6th, 1982, and lost at sea on March 4th, 2011. Charlie had blue eyes, brown hair, a beard, and a mustache. And according to the United States Coast Guard reporting source, Charlie allegedly grabbed an undisclosed amount of on-board equipment with negative buoyancy and went overboard wearing a gray sweatshirt and jeans between 8 and 9 a.m. on March 4th, 2011. Charlie's clothing, combined with air temperature around freezing and a sea temperature of 34 degrees, factored into a maximum survival time of about 5 hours, according to officials. The United States Coast Guard searched the waters surrounding the Karen Elizabeth, but to no avail. The Karen Elizabeth was out at sea at roughly 1 mile northeast of Galilee off Narragansett, Rhode Island, about half-mile off of Point Judith. According to an online record search, the Karen Elizabeth is a 78.5-foot diesel-powered commercial fishing vessel. In honor of Charlie, his dad had a bench erected in his memory where you can sit, visit, and reflect. The memorial bench is now installed at Green Hill Beach. Go to the parking lot at the end of Carpenter Drive, and it is on a dune to the left of the path leading to the beach. People still talk about Charlie and his memory on his online memorial to this day. That's the wonderful influence this young man had on people. Charlie Alper was deeply loved, and his friends, family, and community still reel from his loss. Charlie had a great taste in music according to the concerts he attended, and there have been numerous awards dedicated in Charlie's honor, including hockey, fishermen's rewards, and soccer awards. Please call 1-401-444-1000 if you come across any remains in this location. Charlie was excluded as the unidentified male found in Bland, Virginia, on August 14th, 2015. March 26, 2011. James Michael Reed was 24 when someone shot him at 37 Ellington Street, Dorchester, Mass. James is memorialized in the Garden of Peace, a memorial to victims of homicide, a place where families, friends, and the larger community may remember and honor the lives of those taken by violence and serve as a visual testament of the need to eliminate it. At the same time, the garden serves as a symbol of hope, peace, and renewal. James was born on May 24th, 1986, and there is no other publicly known information. Please call 1-617-343-4470. March 28th, 2011. An unidentified white male between the ages of 65 to 70 was found deceased in the residence on March 28, 2011, in East Boston, Massachusetts. The male was 5 foot 2 inches and about 74 pounds. He had white-gray hair about 2 inches long and unknown eye colors due to putrefaction and decomposition. The unidentified man had 2 tattoos, one of a cross over a crown, or something similar looking, on his upper left arm, and on his lower left forearm there is a man's head with a hat or a helmet. No other information is available. Please call 1-617-343-4470 with any information. March 31st, 2011. Ryan W. Bidstrup was last seen on March 31st, 2011, after leaving a party in the Highland section of Ledyard, Connecticut. Prior to his disappearance, Ryan was a normal 21-year-old guy, living at 5 Greenpoint Street. Ryan measures between 5'11" and 6 feet, and weighed between 140 and 150 pounds when he was last seen. Ryan has unknown homemade tattoos, hazel eyes, and keeps his brown hair short. Ryan was last seen walking away from a party at 40 Blacksmith Drive, headed up Pumpkin Hill, which was less than a 10-minute walk to be picked up around midnight. Ryan has a history of substance abuse issues and has not been on Facebook since the last night he was seen, which is incredibly out of character since he was an avid Facebook user prior to vanishing. Ryan was supposed to go to Florida, but there is no indication that he made it safely. Ryan has not contacted anyone, including his close sister Courtney. Ryan was last seen wearing blue jeans and a hoodie, glasses, and sneakers. No foul play is suspected, however, it has not been ruled out. No exclusions have been made. Please call 1-860-464-6400 or 1-860-848-6548. April 3rd, 2011. Trigger warning: suicide. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a United States-based suicide prevention network of over 160 crisis centers that provides 24/7 service via a toll-free hotline with the number 988. It is available to anyone in suicidal crisis or emotional distress. Corey Michael Lang was born January 4th, 1979, and fought a long, courageous battle with mental illness that eventually led to his untimely death on April 3rd, 2011. Corey was a 1997 Hinsdale High School graduate and a 1998 to 2000 Bosnia and Kuwait Army veteran. Corey was a wonderful and sweet soul, according to those who knew him, and had a large family and a longtime girlfriend. Corey worked as an oil mechanic for Irving Paper Mill Company and at a Vermont bread company as a mechanic. Corey was an avid reader, hiker, history buff. Corey rebuilt motorcycles, enjoyed swimming and running. According to one source, Corey was a complex man, gentle soul with a great heart. Corey also struggled with his mental health. Corey lived with schizophrenia and was hospitalized twice as a result. Corey was 5'8" to 5'9", 175 pounds with short dark brown hair, brown eyes, and tattooed arms. One tattoo is a sword with the word forbearance on it. On April 3rd, 2011, while atop the French King Bridge over the Connecticut River between Gill and Irving, Massachusetts, Corey shot himself and fell off the bridge into the river below. Corey's body was swept away and never recovered, hence why he is considered a missing person. Please call 1-413-773-5361 or 1-817-718-7904 with any information. April 20th, 2011. His smile would brighten any room. Deuce had a passion for music. Music was his life, and in every breath he took. Music was in every beat for which his heart pulsated. Music was in every sound he heard, in every word he spoke. Music was the essence of his love. Music was his best friend, whom he always adored. Memory is a way of holding on to the things you love, the things you are, the things you never want to lose, and I will forever hold on to the memories of you. Love you, and forever, my baby bro, rest in peace till we meet again. This is one of the only life facts about Deuce that is publicly known. What else is known about Edmund Deuce Andrade, who was born on December 22nd, 1987, is that he was mercilessly murdered on April 20th, 2011 by a gunshot wound to the head at 22 Troll Street, Dorchester, Mass, in Upham's Corner, and now rests forever in New Calvary Cemetery. Please call 1-617-343-4470, 1-800-494-8477, or text TIP to 27463. April 20th, 2011. Unidentified white male remains aged between 31 to 65 were found in a fishing net in Gloucester, Mass., 45 miles from Cape Cod, in 400 to 600 feet of ocean, at 4210.7 latitude and 6958.8 longitude. No torso, one or more limbs, one or more hands. Exclusions, a height, or weight, were found or determined for the body. No other information is available. Please call 1-800-494-8477 with any information. May 9th, 2011. David's daughter, Tanya, told Missing People of America, "My dad, David, was in a car accident and his vehicle was totaled. He lost his job shortly after due to not getting to work. My dad stayed the weekend at my house with me and his granddaughter, and on Monday afternoon he asked me to drop him off at a bus station so he could go and visit a friend. I insisted that I could drop him off at that friend's house, which he proceeded to tell me he could just take the bus. He hugged me and told me he would call me when he could. I watched him walk down the hill to the bus stop about a mile away, and that was the last time I saw him." David Dennis DeVoe is 5'9", 150 pounds, with short brown hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing blue jeans, a black baseball hat, and a plaid flannel jacket in Nashua, New Hampshire, in May 2011. If you have any information about David's whereabouts, please call 1-603-497-4858. May 15th, 2011. Partial skeletal remains were discovered in Barnstable County, Massachusetts. The head, torso, one or more limbs, and one or more hands were not located. No exclusions have been made. The sex, race, age, height, and weight were not able to be determined. Please call 1-617-867-6767 or 1-817-718-7904 with any information. May 29th, 2011. 20-year-old Raheem Browder was born on March 13th, 1991, and stricken down by gunfire at 942 on May 29th, 2011, at 29 Selden in Dorchester, Mass. Police are unsure if Raheem's death is related to Mark Edmond's murder on the same night, just a half hour apart. Please call 1-617-343-4470 with any information. Memorial Day 2011. A man named Pops wrote the following poem dedicated to numerous lost souls, some of whom I have covered and some of whom I will. Memorial Day missiles and memories. Political thugs in shark suits persuade us to pull triggers. This is for Ivor Brown and Raheem Browder and Mark Edmond and Antonio Fernandez. Memorial Day, where we honor those who served and fought and died in the armed forces, in the militarized zones, far from home, usually. And Terrence Johnson and Mark Thomas Little and Gerda Bissett and Terrence Jacobs. And sometimes home is where the hell is as well, where some, with and without a sense of self, are forced to arm themselves and make sense of inner, city living conditions that cause PTSD. And Curtis Ashford and Terrence Kelly and Jefferson Johnson and Nicholas Foamby Davis. Too many suns whose lungs no longer pump oxygen. So we inhale purple haze, too sour for the lips, so we daze out on. Lazy, rainy afternoons, reliving daytime nightmares, where we scheme like Sesame Street, puppets, but instead just dangle from tattered ropes, with no hope for wardrobe changes or script rewrites, vetted by our instincts, so we get it how we live it, often aimlessly. Guided missiles still getting fired by misguided men. Call 1-617-343-4470 with any of the information that can lead to justice for any of those named in this poem. May 29th, 2011. 22-year-old Mark Edmond was killed in a hail of gunfire at the crossing of Itasca and Messenger Street in Mattapan, Mass. at 10:15 p.m. on May 29th, 2011. No other information is available. If you have anything to add to this case, please call 1-617-343-4470. May 31st, 2011. 20-year-old Mark Edward Thomas Little lived in Mattapan, Mass. Had a large extended family, including 6 siblings, and a mom named Peaches Little. Someone senselessly shot Mark in the head on May 31st, 2011 at 9:54 p.m. at 113 Evans Street, Mattapan. Please call 1-617-343-4470 with any information. June 29th, 2011. Nick Trotman was a 38-year-old father, self-employed barber from Trinidad. Nick was described as a just man, a kind, hard-working, decent man. Nick was the cousin of Philly Lapiste, who is a community activist and source of assistance to local police. Nick was recalled as a humble man, one not about violence, who'd much rather talk people down from any kind of confrontation. Nick was on his way home when an assailant shot him in the head at 1:42 a.m. outside of 45 Olney Street in Dorchester, Mass. Olney Street resident Seth Morgan said he heard the shooting and later saw the man's body on the sidewalk. "I was with my younger brother and I heard the 5 shots. My brother said those aren't firecrackers and we came outside, saw the guy on the floor right on the sidewalk in front of my house." Witnesses said they heard an argument occur outside shortly before the shooting began. Nick's cousin Philly made the funeral arrangements, and the then police captain, Richard Sexton, took interest in the case because he and Philly had a good working community relationship. Nick left behind a then 13-year-old daughter. Please call 1-617-343-4470 or 1-617-494-8477 with any information. June 8th, 2011. Trigger warning: sexual assault. We know what happened to Bill and Lorraine Currier. They were tortured, sexually assaulted, and murdered by serial killer Israel Keyes. We know where their bodies are located, yet they are classified as missing because their remains have yet to come home. As Israel Keyes stayed at a hotel mere blocks away from the home of Bill and Lorraine Currier in the small town of Essex, Vermont, with a population of about 19,000, the Curriers were living their lives as usual. 49-year-old Bill Currier was kind and caring. At 6 feet, 220 pounds, he was a subcontracted animal tech of college animals for 25 years at the University of Vermont, starting in 1986. Bill wore Charmeau brand glasses, and an optometrist hadn't seen him in 4 years, though Bill should have been going yearly. 55-year-old Lorraine Simone Currier worked for Fletcher Allen Healthcare. Neighbor Brandy Tomczyk said of the Curriers that they put energy into decking out their 8 Colbert Street ranch-styled home around the holidays, including piping Christmas music outside, though she didn't know them much beyond their festivities. The Curriers lived in Essex, Vermont, and were described by various people and outlets as reliable, responsible, and quiet. Which is why the couple, who were last seen by coworkers around 5 p.m. on Wednesday, June 8th, 2011, were reported missing the following morning of June 9th, 2011, at 10 a.m. A recently purchased handgun, the make and model of which were not originally released to the public, but later revealed to be a Roger handgun, and the Currier's vehicle were also reported missing at the time. Lorraine's no-call, no-show caused her sister-in-law, who she worked with, to call Bill. They found out Bill hadn't shown up either, and Bill's sister reported the couple missing. Suspicious disappearance was quickly upgraded to foul play, as both the Currier's medications were left at home. Bill was diabetic and had a medical condition where vertebrae were fused together, causing a stoop, while Lorraine had a heart condition. Both required daily medication to maintain their illnesses. A broken window on the attached garage, a smashed door between the garage and the house, and other suspicious activity at the scene of the disappearance also led to the conclusion of foul play. 36 law enforcement, some with search dogs, looked for the Curriers in Essex, and a mobile crime lab analyzed the scene. Lorraine bumped into friend Linda Platt 2 months prior to disappearing and confided that there was an unnamed man, a guy. At this point, I'm scared to death of him. It's like he's stalking me, Lorraine said. There is no mention if the stalker was Keyes or another person. Israel Keyes denied watching the victims more than a day or two prior to his nefarious activities. However, Israel could have easily lied and stalked the couriers. We'll never know because Keyes completed suicide in jail prior to trial. Friends and family were always visiting the courier's home, and every Sunday a church group bus would appear. The courier's bank accounts and cell phones remained untouched and unused. On June 10th, their 1994 or 1996 green Saturn SL2 sedan was discovered 1 mile away from their home in an apartment parking lot on June 10th between two apartment buildings at 241 Pearl Street, Essex, near a dumpster, and witnesses claimed that a long-haired male was driving the vehicle. $10,000 was the reward offered for the location of the couriers at the time of their disappearance. During an early press conference, Bill's sister said, "Bill and Lorraine Currier are kind and caring people, beloved members of our families. We are heartbroken by their disappearance and at a loss to explain or understand it. Bill and Lorraine, if you can hear this, know that we love you and we're doing everything we know how to do to find you and bring you home." On June 14th, 2011, a person of interest was discovered. However, they were not the killer ultimately, so I will not name them here. On June 15th, 2011, trained canine units were utilized in this search. 3 weeks into this investigation, a blogger questioned if Bill and Lorraine went missing due to a serial killer based on the type of car they drove, combined with their ages, citing other cases they were thinking of. It turns out, this far-fetched theory was half right. They were indeed murdered by a serial killer. June 24th, 2011, law enforcement began to lose hope of finding the couriers alive due to their given medical conditions and general statistics. Less than 1 month into the investigation, Essex, Vermont-based Burlington Free Press requested access to search warrants, police affidavits, and University of Vermont emails belonging to Bill. These requests were ultimately denied by the courts. The reasoning behind the press's request for information was due to the investigators sharing very little, and the press becoming frustrated with the whole ordeal. Law enforcement thought potential perpetrators may be assisted by information made public, and that is why they remained tight-lipped. Overall, there were 11 search warrants and 3 subpoenas issued in the hunt for the couriers. Law enforcement searched 68 acres in Essex, which included the Winooski River and abutment off Route 15 in Essex, in a 2-day search with excavators and dogs. July 18, 2011, foul play was officially announced. However, police were unsure if it was domestic related or if it were by an unknown person. 12 people ultimately submitted DNA. 4.5 months into the investigation, $15,000 from Essex Select Board was approved for DNA testing not offered by the state lab. This money was sourced from drug dealers and other criminals who forfeited their cash, so none of it was coming from taxpayers. Investigation by federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies did not generate any solid leads with respect to the courier's disappearance. Bill and Lorraine's home remained uninhabited, and the outside light shined on to guide them home. It wasn't until a young woman named Samantha Koenig went missing in Alaska and her killer caught did we finally get a chance to discover what happened to the couriers. In April 2012, Albany Division received information from Anchorage Division that Bill and Lorraine were murdered in June 2011, and their bodies were left abandoned in a 2-story farmhouse in Essex, Vermont. Israel kidnapped the couriers from their home, brought them to the farmhouse that would be their death site. Israel Keyes tied them in the basement while he took Lorraine upstairs and sexually assaulted her for several hours. Bill desperately tried to escape his bindings, but Israel heard, went downstairs. A fight ensued where Keyes struck Bill in the head with a shovel after putting a knife to his throat. Keyes then strangled Bill to death, went upstairs, and continued to torment Lorraine until bringing her downstairs and strangling her to death in the basement. In April 2012, investigators dug out the basement and sifted the contents. However, the courier's remains were not recovered. Investigation revealed that the abandoned farmhouse was demolished on October 26th and October 27th of 2011. Law enforcement went through the rock pile left at the property, the basement beneath, and the courier's bodies were not present. When the farmhouse was demolished, the basement of the farmhouse was filled in with the stone walls of the house. There were signs of decomposition, though, giving credit to Israel Keyes' story. The debris was first taken to the Williston, Vermont transfer station, then taken to Coventry Landfill in Newport, Vermont, and was searched from May 7th, 2012 to July 20th, 2012. Investigators were unable to locate the remains of Bill or Lorraine Currier despite an 11-week valiant search. July 28, 2012, Israel Keyes' name is first made public and reports claim he has tips related to Bill and Lorraine, and is not tied to the then missing Selena Cass. This is where our story ends. Bill and Lorraine met a terrible end to their otherwise lovely lives, and no justice came of the passing of Israel Keyes. And if by some chance you are digging around in the exact location in the garbage pile that the couriers were allegedly disposed of in, the one that has been searched for weeks and weeks over by professionals, and you come across something, please call 1-802-878-8331. June 9th, 2011. 58-year-old Kevin King lived alone at a residence on Old Lakeshore Road in Guilford, New Hampshire, when he vanished on June 9th, 2011 or June 10th, 2011. Kevin had a history of dementia and confusion, was hearing impaired, diabetic, and had depression-like symptoms. Kevin was 5'4", white, and about 180 pounds when he disappeared. Kevin had grayish-brown hair and was balding on top, though this may have gotten worse in the past decade, and he may be more gray and bald than before. Kevin's niece from Manchester, New Hampshire reported him missing, and the police department, along with the fire department, New Hampshire Fish and Game, New Hampshire State Police, Belknap County CERT Team, and the New Hampshire Search and Rescue Team saturated the area for many days, searching for signs of Kevin. Searches included those with the New England Canine Rescue, Upper Valley Wilderness Response Team, Guilford PD, NH Fish and Game, numerous volunteers, and those searches occurred along Old Lakeshore Road near Lake Winnipesaukee, and were all unsuccessful. Kevin is believed to have set off on foot. This was the beginning of Laconia Bike Week. After locking up his home and leaving his car and keys behind, then was likely picked up, as search dogs tracked him to the beginning of the mobile home park, and then the trail went cold. There is no evidence of foul play. Don Nason, an NH League of Investigators cold case unit has taken an interest in this case. Please call 1-603-223-3860 with any information. June 17th, 2011. America was Farah Diagani's dream, and his dream came true when young Farah and his family emigrated to the U.S. from Senegal in 1998, so that his grandmother wouldn't be alone, as she had moved to Boston in the 1960s. Farah earned full citizenship, learned English, and became an American. Farah's sister Mona described him as a happy kid with a good heart. A good heart doesn't always keep you from making poor choices, though. And Mona claims Farah made poor personal choices in the people he was hanging out with. Something that Mona tried to bring up to Farah without success. These poor personal choices led to Farah being arrested for drug possession, and he was sent to jail. This isn't where young Farah's story ends yet, though. When in jail, Farah turned his life around. He earned his GED and was accepted into Roxbury Community College, where he planned on studying business administration. Before accomplishing his dreams, though, Farah's young life came to an end on the very streets he loved. On June 17th, 2011 at 8:30 p.m., 24-year-old Farah was walking with two friends when he was targeted from 20 feet away and gunned down in front of witnesses and on camera at 453 Blue Hill Avenue and Warren Street in the Grove Hall section of Roxbury, Mass. Please help bring Farah justice and call 1-617-343-4470. June 20th, 2011. 47-year-old Charlie James Walker and an unidentified woman were shot at 826 Blue Hill Ave, Dorchester, Mass. On June 20th, 2011. The pair were sitting in a car near Harvard Street in front of what was, at the time, described as a troubled building, where after-hours illegal parties and numerous drug investigations had been conducted. The parties were hosted by a 38-year-old woman who charged $5 for fellas and $3 for ladies, and advertised on MySpace. As they sat, Charlie and the woman were able to transport themselves to the hospital after they were shot. Charlie died shortly after arriving at Boston Medical Center. Please call 1-617-343-4470 with any information. June 25th, 2011. Dana Jackson died of unknown means after getting themselves to the hospital. According to police, they had to call the hospital to confirm that Dana had made it there after leaving the scene of an assault at Dearborn and Eustis Street in Roxbury, Mass. Dana made their way to Boston Medical Center, where they later died of their injuries. Please call 1-617-343-4470 with any information. For those of you who asked for longer episodes, here's Season 2, Part 2, No Stops, All Story. Please follow me as I tell you about 2011 here on mine, Missing, Murdered, Unidentified in New England. If you have any questions, concerns, complaints, please email me at minepodcast@gmail.com. All one word, and mine is spelled with 2 M's, 2 I's, 1 N, 1 E. Please include what your message is about in the subject line. Later, y'all.